morning. My name is Tom Kennedy, and I have the privilege of serving as the board chair for the Pikes YMCA. Boyd Williams, our CEO, has asked that I speak for a few moments about board development and some of the progress that we have made in board leadership over the last 2 to 3 years. I've been a longtime Y supporter and been on the board for a number of years, and always felt like I had while I enjoyed participating in the board, I always questioned the value of my participation to the board. I looked around the room and I noticed the board was full of very competent, professional, experienced people who had many skills that they could provide to the Y, but were really not being utilized. The typical board meeting was, as many of you probably have experienced, where the executive staff would present issues to the board. There would be some brief discussion about that, and the board would then yay or nay on that. And I always felt like we were not really utilizing the skills and expertise that existed on our board. Several years ago, as I moved into a leadership role on the board, I had the opportunity to travel with our then CEO, Dan Dummermuth, to San Francisco and attended a conference in which one of the topics was board leadership and board development. A woman named Gigi Woodruff, who was with the Y of the USA, did a presentation on board governance. And it really struck a chord with me, and the idea that the board really had the ability to contribute to the mission of the Y far more than simply attending monthly meetings and making a financial contribution. After that initial meeting with Gigi, we actually invited Gigi to come to Colorado Springs to attend a strategic planning session. I think it was 2.5 years ago in September. And we used a half-day strategic planning to try to learn this new mode of board governance, what she refers to as a generative mode of governance. And the idea is there really are 3 primary functions that a board performs. First, the fiduciary responsibilities that all of you know and that we had always done really well. The strategic planning component of the board, and then working in conjunction with the professional staff and developing a strategic plan. And we'd actually done that pretty well too. But the third part of board leadership is the generative leadership, and helping with the CEO understand what was going on in our communities, understanding the role of the Y in supporting our communities and providing the services which our community needs. I'm not going to try to define for you what generative boards are or what they mean, but I would like to talk with you just a little bit about how it has changed the way our board functions. As I said, the earlier experience had been the board had simply been asked to ratify decisions which to a large part had already been made. And with this new role of board leadership, what we have done is the board has now involved from the beginning stages when an issue is presented, which eventually will come to the board is involved at the get-go to participate with the CEO in understanding and framing the issues for eventual presentation to the full board. We also have utilized a task force rather than having simply standing committees to address the issues which might be present. We have found it's easier to get volunteers to commit to perhaps a 2 or 3 month time period rather than a long-term commitment. So the use of task force has also been very effective for us. The other change that I have noticed, and I think anyone who would participate in our board would tell you, is just the increased enthusiasm for the Y as an organization. All of us volunteer for the Y because we care about the Y and we care about the mission and the cause which the Y supports. But we found, or I had found at least, that I really was not able to utilize or to bring life to that passion in any sort of a meaningful way. And so I think what has happened with this more actively involved board, the board is able to actually participate in a meaningful way in the leadership of the Y. The enthusiasm, the robust discussions that occur both at the board meetings as well as the individual committees and task force is the difference between night and day. Secondly, and a very tangible result, is the board contribution is almost doubled simply through the use of this new board governance model. So I would suggest to those of you who are interested in having a more effective Y that you should look around your board and determine whether you are really utilizing the skills which your board members bring to the Y. If you are interested in learning more about this, I would commit to you two resources. First of all, through the Y of the USA, Gigi Woodruff is an absolute expert. She is a fabulous facilitator and will help your Y develop the competencies which are necessary. Second, through the Y of the USA, they have identified actually the type of volunteer competencies which they think promote the more effective type of board leadership, and again, that work has already been completed by the Y of the USA. Third, there is an organization called Board Source, which does a lot of research and on board governance, and I would commit to you a book called Governance as Leadership, published by Board Source, which gives a detailed description of these various roles that nonprofit boards can perform. I have found that the enthusiasm among the board is growing as we continue with this process. The board is anxious to attend meetings. Our participation has jumped in all of our annual meetings or our regular meetings. And again, the people who are willing to give their time now find that their time is actually being used in a meaningful way. So hopefully all of you will at least take another look and see if this is something you are interested in considering. It has worked exceedingly well for us. I think it's necessary that you have someone on your board who is passionate and willing to take a leadership role. And it also requires the commitment of the CEO, because in some ways it does change the manner in which the CEO operates the Y. But I think the benefit to the community and to the organization as a whole is well worth it. So thank you for giving me a few moments of your time, and best luck to you all in the future. Thank you.